All right, lights up for a little bit. There you go. How's everyone doing? Good. Wow, I feel so awesome. Well, welcome. My name is Randy Stilger, and I have the honor and privilege of serving American Airlines as the Manager of Military and Veterans Initiatives. In short, it's my job at American Airlines to support the military community, active duty veterans, families of the fallen, and myself, but also as a company, we take this very seriously. It's incumbent on us. You heard my voice in the background in the video there. I mean it when I say it's with a company named American Airlines and red, white, and blue on our tails. And it's kind of our job, right? And it's, in my opinion, it's the job of all companies that owe their business to the freedom that's provided by the men and women who serve our country. But at American, we do lots of stuff year round. Some of the things that you saw in the video, those are the big flashy ones. Some of the stuff, a lot of behind the scenes stuff makes it really look really exciting. Trust me, it's not always that exciting, but we only show the good stuff. We do get, we utilize our airplanes for good. A lot of stuff, like I said, you'll never hear about compassionate travel. These are the emergency situations where the Department of Defense won't cover air travel for one reason or another. It's a complete privilege to be able to do this on behalf of American Airlines. So glad to be here. So we're very honored to have a very special guest who you're going to hear about in just a little bit. David Bellavia is one of 64 living recipients of the Medal of Honor. As you see, we have a good working relationship with the Medal of Honor Society, the foundation, and of course the museum that's just going to be built just down there in Arlington. So, and it's just for a dumb Army guy like me to have a bunch of Medal of Honor recipients in my cell phone is a complete honor and privilege in itself. And so when I asked David if he could do it, he was more than willing to oblige. So, but let's do this. We got a little 5-minute tells a story about David, and then we'll bring in the person that you're here to see.
The President of the United States of America has awarded, in the name of Congress, the Medal of Honor to Staff Sergeant David G. Bellavia, United States Army, for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty.
During the Second Battle of Fallujah, David was a squad leader in Alpha Company, 2nd Battalion, 2nd Infantry Regiment. And on that 10th day, November 2004, he was leading a squad through Fallujah.
Staff Sergeant David Bellavia and his 10-man squad were going house to house, searching for terrorists.
David Bellavia was about to celebrate his 29th birthday in the midst of the battle.
We walked into one house and these guys set up an ambush.
We scrambled back onto the street.
Everyone I served with, we were equals. There was never any question about our fidelity. When you have a relationship under fire, that is the essence of being human, is to say, I will bleed for you. I will do whatever I have to do for you. Because I know you do it for me.
Someone had to go back in there. Someone had to kill them.
Yeah, what is there with the question?
It was Staff Sergeant Bellavia.
Followed by Ware and one other soldier, Bellavia went back into the pitch black house.
I just can't imagine anybody making that decision. That's the first thing in my mind.
That's why he's a hero. You have the courage to not only go in there, but to take out everybody, save your buddies. Army Staff Sergeant David Bellavia saved an entire squad when he voluntarily entered and cleared insurgent strongholds.
He was alone. On his own, he crept through the house, killing 5 of Zarqawi's men, some in hand-to-hand combat.
We talk about one person's actions, but there are 55 different decisions that other people make that allow you to make decisions, and I just have to be the right place at the right time.
David is honestly being humble. We knew those guys were in there. We've been tracking them all night. What he did, going back into that nightmare, saved all those men's lives.
I'm especially proud of the recognition that this award brings to my unit, my leaders, and my peers of the mighty Ramrods of 2-2 Infantry, 3rd Brigade, 1st Infantry Division. The award should be seen as a validation of our efforts, not as a reward the action of one individual in one house in Fallujah.
Sergeant Bellavia is the first living recipient of the Medal of Honor since taken during Operation Iraqi Freedom.
The Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration awarded for acts of valor and combat, is given only to the bravest of the brave.
I owe it to 37 men who gave their lives for me.
Were it not for Bellavia, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
He needs a turn of American hero.
This is the autobiography of our generation right here.
We're proud and humbled that we still keep this statue among our ranks.
We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We've seen war. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
David's commitment to his Army family did not end once he left the force in 2005. He co-founded Vets for Freedom, a veteran democracy organization that empowers veterans of character and experience. He went on to become a radio talk show host in his hometown of Buffalo. After writing a book about his experience as a soldier and working closely with countless veteran organizations, his desire to serve knows no boundaries.
Continue to fight for the guys fighting. And when he came out with the Silver Star, every single one of us that read his book said this is a Medal of Honor story.
We don't do it for awards. We don't do it for keys to the city. We do it for the common good. We do it for the common decency. We do it for the sake of our liberty, and we do it for the liberty of generations to come.
David is a truly great man, and this nation is proud to call him one of our own.
Anyone else remember when he was at the Pentagon and gave that rousing speech? As a Iraq war veteran myself, he went up there. He was the first one to represent the Iraq war, the first recipient to receive the medal. So just amazing to see that. I meant to mention this earlier. So we're going to be in here for about an hour, and 15 minutes total. The last 15 minutes, we'll open up the audience to do some questions. After that, we've got more books for sale out in the lobby. You can buy some books. Dave will be out there to take pictures, sign autographs, sign those books for you. Also, if you didn't get a little ticket for door prizes, we're going to give some door prizes away. So, all right. So you're not here to see me, are you? Yeah, you're not. So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, one of the great guys that works for American Airlines, Captain Mitch Taco Bell. He's going to play the role of Oprah Winfrey today and do a great job. And then the person you're here to see, ladies and gentlemen, Staff Sergeant David Bellavia.
Folks, can everybody hear me? Great, outstanding. Listen, Mitch Bell, I'm a retired Marine, Lieutenant Colonel. I served over in Iraq in August of 2005. I was a little crap hole called Al-Taqaddum TQ, which was in between Fallujah and Ramadi, right next to him. I tell you what, this is a real pleasure and honor to be here. As a retired Marine, I always like to see a show of hands. How many Marines do I have in the audience? Outstanding. No, hold on a second, hold on. Show me Army. Outstanding. Air Force. Oh, hold your applause. Air Force. Navy. Good. Now here's the big one. Coast Guard. They're pink unicorns. You never see them. There you go, man. Winning lotto ticket. Listen, and I got final spouses that supported us while we were deployed. Any spouses in here? And you know what? Vietnam vets that never got to welcome home, like my dad, welcome home. Vietnam vets, raise your hand. I see a couple in the audience. Outstanding. Big round of applause. You guys are all the fabric of freedom, makes this a great country. And it would not be this way if we did not have a military. And in this military, I'm talking about folks that willing to lay down their life for the brothers. The medal is such an extraordinary deal, but it's ordinary guys that do extraordinary events when the time calls. All of us, we all pray at that time that we would step up and do that. And David did. I changed his life, and we're going to sit and have a little conversation about that. If that's good, everyone? Outstanding. All right. David Bells, everyone calls me Taco. Buddies call you Bell and Bells, right? So let's go back. I'm a little confused. I read your book this weekend. You were born on November 10th. Why in the hell? Why, in the name of God, did you not join the Marine Corps?
Yeah, so the true story is I walked into the Marine Corps' office in 1999, and I had a big barrel-chested gunny sergeant, and he asked me if I thought I was worthy to have a birthday the same day as his beloved Marine Corps. And so I thought this was like a confidence challenge, and I said, absolutely, I'm worthy. And he said, get the hell out of my office. And, I moved next door and joined the infantry for 6 years.
God, that is awesome. And for those of you who don't know, his birthday is November 10th, and the Marine Corps' birthday is November 10th, 1775. So just an outstanding deal for that. I came over after you, and the battle scars were still fresh. Most of these people have never experienced. I walked around Fallujah, around the base area, and even on the backside where they had some buildings and kept the Iraqis, I think. Could you kind of detail what Fallujah looked like, the smells, just the experience? Because most of these people could never understand about, you're about to take over a city that is held by thousands of jihadists. What was it like, first of all? Do you remember?
So Fallujah is a city the size of Tampa Bay, Florida, with all of its population there. In April of 2004, the 82nd Airborne had just left occupation of Fallujah, gave it over to the Marine Corps. And right in that turnover from the 82nd to the Marine Corps, you had those contractors that were killed in March of 04. And so that was obviously a horrific event for everyone in Iraq, but more importantly, Fallujah became the epicenter for recruiting for the global jihadist all-star team, I call them, right? And they all started to come to Fallujah. So in April of 04, the Marine Corps slapped them around. I mean, the enemy had no chance against the United States Marine Corps. But you had, Al Arabia TV, you had Al Jazeera TV, and they were trying to paint this information operations war that the Marines were somehow targeting civilians.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was American coalition forces pulled out of Fallujah from April of 04 and said, we're coming back, but we're going to equip a Fallujah brigade to deal with their business inside of the city. That Fallujah brigade automatically joined the enemy. They gave the enemy our equipment. They gave the enemy our uniforms. So from April until November, we knew we were going back in. It was a matter of time.
Mm-hmm.
But we gave enough time, 6 months, to basically pull out women and children. Zarqawi, the butcher of Baghdad,
mm-hmm.
Zarqawi is in Fallujah in April, and he escapes dressed as a woman with all the civilians. So he gets out with the women and children, like all terrorist leaders do.
Yeah.
And leaves nothing but people that were there to die. And that's all they were there to do, was to take out as many Americans as they could. The Army was not the central force. It was a Marine Corps effort. We were just there to assist. We worked with the Marines real well earlier in the year in Najaf, built a great relationship. And November 2004, we were waiting for the presidential election. The Bush administration did not want an invasion.
Wow.
So whoever won was the president-elect, and we were going in, and that's what we did. We waited for that. And I gotta tell you, that sand, I remember everything. This was our generation's Normandy Beach.
Yeah.
And we were going in Old Testament. I mean, everything in that city was with a weapon. Everything in that city was a target. We haven't had a fight like that since. I don't think we have the stomach for a fight like that again.
Door to door.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
But they had 6 months to fortify the place, right?
Yeah.
Why didn't we just carpet bomb it? Or, I mean, everybody was out, so they were going to lose their city, raise it, and build a new one, you know?
Well,
Did they
that's,
ever talk about that?
yeah, you're kidding me. We had a Moab in Fallujah, and it was going to be the first fuel,
Yeah.
the mother of all bombs, right? The Daisy Cutter,
Yeah.
it's the third generation of these fuel bombs. The schizophrenia of Iraq at that moment in 2004 was, how long are we going to be here? When's this going to end? And for everything we blow up, we're going to have to rebuild. So do we really want to take out an entire city when we're just going to have to rebuild the entire thing? And when you fight honorably, when you put human beings like the Iraqi citizens and you put their lives and you show them that they're meaningful, you're essentially stating that American blood is as worthy as Iraqi civilians. And it's a beautiful sentiment on paper, but as a soldier,
Yeah. So
you're like, what is this? Just take the whole thing out. We put ourselves in harm's way to save lives and to save mosques and to save hospitals and to save schools. And I went back after Fallujah, the battle. I went back as a reporter, and I did. I went to spend a couple trips back there just to see where my friends lost their lives. I was hoping to find like a memorial in the street, and it was really heartbreaking. In a way, it honored them that life was back to normal, but to me, I was expecting there to be a Sean Sims memorial, a Stephen Falkenberg statue somewhere. These were people that I knew and cared for, and this is what they died for, you know?
we went back to the border in 08. The surge had happened, and they had kind of started kicking the bad guys out on their own. So what was it more? Is it more tranquil? Did you feel threatened walking around without a squad around you?
Oh, so I went, the first time I went back was 06, and that was a little bit dicey. Ramadi was really great, but that was the first. I wrote an op-ed for the Weekly Standard in 06, and it was the first time I had realized that this Sons of Iraq thing, Sons of Anbar, was real.
Mm-hmm.
Now, imagine going back to, EWO in 1946. I mean, that's, you don't expect to get those experiences again. You have a big battle and then you go back to visit a couple of years later, but it was such an incredible ask to take the men and women of the Iraq War and ask them to literally befriend and fight alongside the very enemy that killed their friends 6 months before. That has never been asked of any generation of American before.
Yeah.
We did not trust the Japanese to arm them to provide security for themselves after the war. We certainly didn't trust the Germans to do that. There hasn't been a conflict America's been in where we literally said, hey, you had an RPG a month ago and you were trying to shoot us and our friends. Let's go on a ride together and you cover me and I'll cover you. It worked. It worked. I mean, they turned on the radicals. They saw the Al-Qaeda foreigners. Mitch, we pulled passports off bodies all over Fallujah, and it was like the Philippines, Chechnya, Bosnia, Italy, Tunisia, Algeria. I got a passport from Dearborn, Michigan, and that absolutely broke my heart. It broke my heart that some kid decided to travel over there. And he's, it humanized everything, and it makes it really tough to understand, There's some places in this world, we want our kids to grow old, and we want them to be free, and we want them to control their own destiny, and we judge our children by the quality of their life. And in other places in this world, they judge their kids by the quality of their death.
Yeah.
And that's what we're up against. And I'd like to say that we put a dent in that ideology, but I don't know. There's still a few out there.
When 2004, 2005, we were losing 1 to 3 guys probably every few days. As an air boss, when somebody got hit, we would do the 9 lines and send the helicopters out. One of our squadron mates, Scott Crockett, went back as he was working in Ramadi, and that's when the transition happened. And some kids, they got no firefights, some kids died in a soccer field. They tried to say it was Americans that shot them. They went back and proved.
I remember that.
It was the AKs.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, 4 or 5 terrorists were dead right there in the soccer field where the kids died. And he said, Scott was like, that is where I saw and when we were there, we never saw that, but when, as a young soldier, and you were based out of Germany, right?
Right.
How did you guys train for this? Because this was never, we had combat towns, but nothing like this. How did you guys train to prepare for this?
I'm a product of my leadership. I had our officers, our senior NCOs. We had a guy named Doug Walter who we had in Kosovo. So our unit went to Kosovo for 6 months. The war kicked off. So they extended us for 9 months in Kosovo. And then we came home for a quick turnaround. So we were training for Iraq in Kosovo. But we had Sean Sims, who was a Texas A&M ROTC grad, who was our company commander in Iraq. We had Sergeant Major Falkenberg, Sergeant Major Bond, First Sergeant Smith, Colonel Peter Newell, Dana Petard. From brigade down, this unit was living on a range in Kosovo. We lived there. We trained night and day in the snow, in the hot of summer. All we did, you get 3 weeks of range time getting ready for deployment. We had 9 months of range time.
But had you guys experienced combat in Kosovo?
Never once locked and loaded our weapon systems in the civilian population.
Right.
But when we got home from we drove up to a range and shot 10,000 rounds.
Wow.
And when we wanted more ammunition, Uncle Sam would just drop it down. And so we were throwing grenades, doing the claymores. We were so accustomed to firing our weapon systems 2 feet away from each other, understanding what that sounds like. Because once you're in close quarter combat, in the history of architecture, there's 2 types of doors. You got a center fed door and a quarter fed door. That's it. You could be SEAL Team 6 or the Marvel Avengers. If I got a machine gun on the other side of that door, someone's getting shot.
Right.
It's just the way it is. So your whole entire fight in a close quarter battle is psychological. Nothing to do with physical. It's all in your head. No matter what happens to your left or your right, you move forward. The shooter goes down no matter what. And getting that muscle memory, but also just realizing that the reaction of having a weapon system shoot 3 inches from your face, and then the echo. Well, we're going to do that every day. We're going to do it at night. We're going to do it during the day. And if it's cold and we're training for Iraq, you're not going to be wearing a jacket and a hat.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have your desert gear on. So get cold, get frigid, because we are going to train in the same uniform we're going to fight in. And we're going to do it every single day for 9 months. And we hated our officers and our NCOs, couldn't stand them. But that forward-based thinking is the reason why we hit on running. A lot of units, we were lucky to have a crescendo to violence, right? Where you get your first fight and then you're able to get a second one. If Fallujah happens at the beginning of the deployment, we're going to lose a lot more men. But because we had Muktadaya and Bakuba,
Yeah.
we had Najaf, we had Fallujah at the end, towards the end, we were ready. And we had grown to the point where taking people out, I mean, we talk about Black Hawk Down, and that's an incredible story of what happened in Mogadishu. 97% of those casualties were outside of houses. They weren't inside.
Really?
Yeah, 97% of the casualties in Mogadishu in 93 were outside of a room. We don't have a whole lot of military experience with close quarter combat. We have Way City,
Yeah, I was
Vietnam,
gonna say, Wade was probably the last.
Seoul, Korea 51. And then the other ones that we talk about when it comes to urban fighting, we talk about Grozny in World War II. Americans didn't fight in Grozny.
Right.
That was Soviet and German. And we talk about Berlin. We didn't get that either. So a lot of our tactics and procedures are coming from urban fights that we didn't really have that experience. Way City and Seoul, Korea were the two biggest urban fights our American military participated in. And those lessons learned from those two fights, we have completely brought into our doctrine and we teach today. The confirmed engagements at close quarters, and when I say close quarters, I'm talking about 5 meters.
Busting in the door and having a machine gun
Right there. I'm not talking 30, 40 meters, I'm talking that if you don't get hit with a round, you're getting burned by a muzzle flash, right? The injuries are bites, hair pulls, hand-to-hand combat. This is not what we're accustomed to.
So how do you stack up and then break into a door knowing that there's probably a machine gun behind it? I mean, do you bust the door, toss a couple frags in there?
Sure. Okay,
Do you have that?
Well, first of all, so we're in Germany, German base unit. I find this field manual for you.
Mhm.
And it's this cartoon, the way they do their little field, and it's from 1941. And it shows these guys getting shot at. by the
American or
enemy.
German?
American guys, that they're drawing how Americans clear routes with their M1s. And the guy's got the weapon over his head, he's screaming, he's like, got a foot out, shooting, blind, closing his eyes. And I'm like, what a bunch of barbarians, like we're so much more evolved than that. And then the first time I got shot at, my weapon was over my head, I had my foot out there, I'm closing my eyes. I'm like, this guys really know what they're doing, man. This is well done. That is absolutely spot on accurate. You're training someone how to catch a bullet by tossing a bullet at their teeth.
Yeah.
And then the next one is coming a little bit faster, right? How do you train to do something you've never done before? The grenade is a great idea, but in the midst, they don't have drywall. It's all concrete. And when you shoot a 5.56 in concrete, thing is boom, 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 everywhere. So the thing that you have to differentiate, there's a difference between being hurt and being injured. If you're injured, you're not fighting anymore. Everyone gets hurt. And there's no one that leaves a close quarter battle without a cut, a scrape, a graze. Your ears are shot. And so what it comes down to is that we thought the frag is the greatest thing in the world. Throw the frag and it's over. Boom, 5 meters of shrapnel. No ventilation. That frag becomes a smoke grenade. So now you just have a big black cloud. And the only one that knows who came through the door is the guy with the machine gun.
Right.
So now they know where you are, but you don't know where they are. So the frag is break glass in case of I lost this fight. The frag is last case.
What would be the best for entering? Shotgun or
Okay, so we went with the little FM. You want your rifleman on point, and then a machine gunner. You want a grenadier. After two hours of Fallujah, we decided everyone gets a machine gun. I need a shotgun. I need a machine gun. We had Mossbergs at the time. Give me 12 gauge and give me saws. Everyone gets a saw. And the Army at that, when you're in trouble, when the Army starts giving you steak, lobster, and cigarettes, it's going to be a bad day. When you start getting deliveries, like the good people at Outback want to do all, they have a sirloin. You're like, oh no, what the hell is about to happen? But when you're like, I need 20 saws, and they're like, I got Sam Colt on the phone right now, and all of a sudden these saws show up. It was the logistics of our military. It's one of the most impressive things in the world. We're seeing this with Russia.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how big and bad you think you are. Doesn't matter how many tanks you have. If you can't fuel, if you can't feed, and if you can't move, you ain't doing nothing.
Right.
And so what does it take to get young men who are black and white, socioeconomic, different backgrounds, different religions, they cancel each other's vote out? How do you get 11 guys on the same page to just go cruising through a door? And the answer is you love them. You let them know that no matter what they see or what they do, if they get hit, that bullet's going through me first.
And did you get hit? I mean, the body armor?
Well, I mean,
second plates?
we were lucky enough to not have. We had one guy. We probably had 4 guys get hit in the Sappy place, and we had casualties. We had fatalities. We had other gunshot wound victims. Much more gunshot wounds. A whole squad, first squad, everyone in that squad was a gunshot wound. That was wounded. My squad's a little just dumb luck. But one of the things that we found out was that there were things that we could do with our Sappy plate, with our body position, that would eliminate the close quarter. Because if you're getting popped within 5 feet in your Sappy plate, there's a lot of internal things that could happen as well. So it's domination, and it's basically convincing a bunch of guys that this is all, it's a pile-on. And when you hear that crack, that is like the Oklahoma land rush. You hear a pop of a weapon, and you could be dead tired. You could be starving. You didn't sleep for 2 days. A bullet sounds, and it just goes into just, like a video game berserker mode, right? And the senses that you develop, right? Because think about it, you can't hear anything.
Yeah,
Your
I was
ears
gonna
are
ask you,
shot.
do you have earplugs? Do you put foamies in at all? Or?
Well, there's that class. Action Suit 3M has taught us. Maybe they weren't the best, right? But
lowest bidder.
Right. You're not going to wear the ear protection because you can't hear, and you need to hear.
Yeah.
But then your ears get shot out, so your ears are gone. You've been around nothing but those bodies stayed dead from April in Fallujah. So by November, there's a lot of bacteria in that city.
Okay.
So by day 2, we start getting the strep throats, the diarrhea, temperatures, really bad temperatures. I had a couple guys that were about 102 consistent, and they were just a mess, digestive, intestinal. So now we got the runny nose, the sore throat, the fever, and the diarrhea. It's not a whole lot going on. You're tired. At one point, I saw like water buffaloes run across the street, and I was like, "This can't be
bizarre."
Yeah. So I can't really trust my eyes. I can't trust my ears, but I can smell. And what I discovered, and what the other guys we all talked about later, was that when a person lives in an abandoned building, they start to use the bathroom. They start to, they got morning breath, a little maybe body odor, and you're like, you can smell that someone's here. And you would look around a building that had been, these people got up and left in April, right? They left. The clothing's all over the place. The food rotted around the table, and just dust and debris from getting bombed and artillery. And then there'd be like an orange cup on the table, pristine. And
somebody was there.
And you're just like, boop, it's just like Spidey sense. And you go from lottie-dottie everybody, building after room after room after room, and you just, no one speaks, and we just kind of look, and then everyone goes into, and I smell over here. I sense there's a guy behind that curtain. There's someone behind. I'm not looking for anything other than where a human being can be behind.
Yeah.
And I know there's not women and children, so I'm gonna fire recon by fire. And that's how you are just.
Smoke them out.
Absolutely.
Do you ever get the tingling on the back of your neck? I mean, as a pilot, I've had a couple of things where all of a sudden this fire goes up the back of your neck and you're like, something's wrong. Do you ever get that when you're talking about spider senses?
More of a dripping down the leg, you know what I mean? Like I find that by the time the tingling happens, you got to balance your fear. I thought that our job was to not be afraid, right? And then I realized that the fear that's a part of the machine. You got to harness it and ride it. You know, you meet someone you think is attractive and you don't have the courage to go up and ask for a phone number, but then you do, and you get a phone number. You meet the girl you like, you meet the boy you like. You got to give them a presentation at work and you're scared to do it, but then you do it and people say, wow, you did a lot of work, you're great, I'm going to promote you. There's a risk, there's a reward. In combat, I mean, that's like, I'm scared out of my mind, but my job is that I cannot register. I'll tell you, if there's a veterans, you need to play get out to the World Series of Poker, because you'll find that you can hide that. You can hide what's going on. We're well rehearsed at. You can't get over the intercom and start screaming when you hit turbulence.
Oh my God, we're all gonna die!
That's the worst thing in the world.
We're going flight. Oh my God.
Man, that's why I don't fly Southwest. No, but you guys are in charge. You're in charge of what's going on here. Civilians, you can do whatever you want. The Hill is in charge. Yeah. And our job is just to say, I expected it. I knew this was going to happen. Don't you worry about a thing. We're going to make it out of here. We're climbing the hill. We're going to stand on top of it. Anything in our way. You open the door, you see Lucifer playing cards. We're going to kick that table and stomp on his chest. We got this. We're going to do it together. And that's the whole game.
Do you ever think, actors get paid big bucks to play us, normal people? I think military folks are the best actors who transition over because you're kind of acting in front of your troops. You kind of put on a persona, right?
I was thinking about doing this entire interview with a British accent just to show, show you my range. You're right, though. Of course we're freezing it. We're hungry. Yeah. We can't be the non-commissioned officer and the officer with enlisted guys. These are still 19 and 20-year-old kids. You know what I mean? They're looking. And by the way, the first one to quit, we got to ride the first guy that wants to quit that run. Because everyone else sees what happens if I quit. Oh, nothing. He goes to chow early. Yeah. Everyone's going to quit. Yeah. So everyone's watching constantly. What's going to happen to him? What's going to happen to him? And you are not only looking for the bad guy. One of my soldiers told me once, I was more afraid of you, Sarge, than I was the enemy. Exactly. Yeah. Because all they're going to do is shoot you. I'm going to take everything. So I'm going to steal your dignity. Because the worst feeling in the world is to know that you're being counted on. Right. And you don't do your job.
Well, let me ask you this. The level of stress that, say you cleared 8 or 9 houses, you get a little rest break, you go eat something. What kind of sense of humor would you see to alleviate some of the stress? What did you ever was there a joke or was there something that you used?
There's gallows humor because that's what it means, right? Yeah. We have to constantly combat stress. If you can't get chow and you can't sleep, there was a time when I would say, you guys need to just kind of get things out. So if we would find a bad guy house, I would say, you know what? I'm going to give you 5 minutes to just break this house apart. Whatever you want to do. You 5 minutes to just be young and stupid and get it out. Get it out of your system. Because you can't go from alert every single minute. You're going to snap, right? So just whatever you got to do. Smoke, sleep, have a good time, talk, drink. I'll pull security, do your thing. That's what it's all about.
This is most incredible this weekend. And one of the things that made me laugh was he got his interpreter, Sammy, to come up with this saying that he taught him. And you still remember it?
I do, but I'm told that my Arabic is pretty rough. But it basically, we were watching the movie Red Dawn, and there's a scene where they yell Wolverines. And so I was just like, how do I say this in Arabic? And every time there was danger, I would yell the Arabic version of, there's a Wolverine loose, put all your women inside.
Yeah.
And everyone would look at you like, a Wolverine, what the hell are you talking about? What do we use a Wolverine loose? But it was so bizarre and crazy that everyone would be like, what did he just say? And they cleared the streets. And I would just continue to use it all year until someone was like, do you have any idea what you're saying? Why do you keep yelling, there's a Wolverine loose? And I'm like, it's working. I'm not gonna, well, I don't know much, but this part's working. But
That one phrase just cracked me up because I'm a big Red Dawn fan. And I have to ask this, Ramrods. How did you guys get that? You Super Troopers, or what did you how did you come up with the Ramrod?
So Fort Riley is named after a general named Benjamin Riley, who's buried in Buffalo, my hometown. And Riley was the battalion commander of 2-2 Infantry in the Mexican-American War. And they were attacking a fort, and the drum baton major, the guy who had the baton that was waving, cracked it over a Mexican soldier's head and it broke. So he used a ramrod from the artillery guys to be like forward. And the unit became the Ramrods. And they had fought in every major battle of every war since 1812.
Okay, I didn't realize the history.
Oh, they're one of the oldest units in the Army. But yeah, it's got a great history. And World War I, we were fighting the Philippine insurrection. So we missed the first chunk of World War I. But every major battle of every war, from Vietnam, World War II, all the way back, showed up in Gettysburg.
Well, that's because I was sitting there reading it. All I could think of was Super Troopers, Team Ramrod. Tell them, Team Ramrod. And you know, when you're deployed, you got movie nights, and you'll put a movie on just to break the levity of the situation. We watch Caddyshack, or we watch whatever. We got into Bada Bing with Sopranos. And to the top of my control tower, the Bada Bing. We smoke cigars, people send boxes of cigars or whatever. But Bada Bing. But when I saw that, I was like, Ramrod. So this is really good. I got a little history lesson on the Army. I love it. You know, you get through. How long did the actual battle finally subside?
So it started for us on the 7th. We started doing the feign attacks where we're pretending to invade, but we're not. And then that started the battle on the 8th of November. It went all the way through, we did about 3.5 weeks in the city, came back to Bakiva. The Battle of Fallujah went probably a week after that.
Yeah.
And then the sustainment operations, we're still taking casualties into December and January. But the actual battle itself was pretty much done in a month.
And for those that haven't read the book, the battle, November 10th, was the night that Bells had his house invasion, taking care of the house. And I kind of want to fast forward because a big part of the book is you finding out about the medal. But he doesn't find out he's getting the medal. He just gets a call from Taco or a buddy or whatever, you know what I'm saying. Hey, man, is everything okay? Army called me up. They're asking questions about you. You know, and he's been out for what, 15 years.
Yeah.
So I can imagine, tell us what was going through your mind. You're thinking.
I got a lawyer, is what I did. Because, I mean, they were asking questions about, like, you know, they're talking about, you know, bodies, and they found these guys, and do you have your Gerber? Is your Gerber, do you still have that Gerber? I'm like, what Gerber? What are you talking about? They had elements of story that have never really been, you know, official Army. You know, this was a Silver Star. I was nominated for the Medal of Honor in 2004. Mm-hmm. And you had, most of these awards were posthumous. So Sal Giunta is the first living recipient of War on Terror, but that's Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. And then you get a series of Afghanistan recipients that are alive, but there's no Iraq living recipient. And so it was clear that certain presidents wanted to keep Iraq away. It was a bad war. Afghanistan was a good war. So we knew that this award had gone up the chain because you hear about it, but it just never was given or was never acknowledged. And so you just move on with your life. It's not a big deal. These phone calls, I mean, these were like, they don't want to tell you anything.
Right.
Positive, negative disposition, nothing.
I'd love to meet this Colonel Perez.
I'll tell you what, she's no joke. She's running a brigade of Texas National Guard right now.
Is she really?
Yeah.
You guys, when you read the book, you're gonna start feeling for her, right? Like they're digging something up. They want to put him on a war trial. He's a war criminal. And I can imagine maybe, in the heat of battle, I did something that, well, I'm getting kind of reviewed on this now.
Well, listen, it's all fun and games, but we live in a culture that loves to cancel.
Yeah.
And so when I came home, I made the mistake of getting into politics. And I ran for a congressional office that, I was young, but I was grassroots. A wealthy guy came in, he gets in trouble. He ends up, the FBI visits him. It happens, I guess, in Congress. So he's no longer in Congress. And now this thing coincided perfectly. And so it's now becomes, hey, do you still have interest? We'd love to clear the decks. Everyone's your friend. You have Democrats and Republicans saying, bravo, America, right?
Yeah.
And then you've got 50-50 rule, 50%, everyone's proud. If 50% cancel you and destroy your life.
Yeah.
And so now you're just out there and everyone can take a shot. And I'll tell you, it's not, it was an education. It was an education.
Well, do all the other recipients that we know, Sal and everybody else, did they put them through the ringer like they did you?
I would say that Sal, that was the worst ringer for him. I would say his was worse because he had no support.
Yeah.
Because he was the first guy. They didn't have a task force.
Or Colonel Perez to help out.
There was no Colonel Perez. Sal Giunta was walking to the Letterman show, sitting in a chair on national TV and walking back to his hotel. Like there was no group around Sal Giunta. He was alone as a pioneer. That's why I have a tremendous amount of respect because they picked not only are his actions warranting the Medal of Honor, but his personality, character, Medal of Honor. Because he took a lot on his shoulders. You look at a guy like Dakota Meyer.
I bet that went over well with coming in and let me open up your Foot Lockers and search your stuff.
But you got, the first Marine since Vietnam to get the Medal of Honor. Everyone is now, the media started to take these guys as not soldiers who did incredible things to get the Medal of Honor. There was a time when these guys were, who are you dating? What are you up to? What mistake did you make in your past? What did you tweet? What's on your social media? All of that was, there were a lesson learned. By the time 2019 came around, I'm the older of the Global War on Terror recipients.
Yeah, you were 28 when it happened.
Right, so I was in my 40s, but these kids got it in their 20s. So they've had the award longer, but, I've got age on them. So they're actually elder statesmen in the fact that they're like, don't do this, do this. They're guiding you. But at the same time, if I was 23 and that happened, I mean, you can understand why you had a lot of people that, there was a time when in World War II, you got the Medal of Honor, you were in Hollywood, dating starlets and doing, Budweiser commercials. Mm-hmm. Things have changed, right? But there's an element of our culture that just wants to rip you to shreds. And I've never been exposed to that. I've never had a reason to be ripped into shreds. And now I'm just like, what is wrong with these people?
Well, my heart broke for you when you went and had dinner with your son.
Yeah.
And you told him, he's in college at the time, and you told him, there's some stuff that's going to be happening. You're probably going to read about it, and you're probably going to see something. Don't worry about what people say. We'll get through this. Because you didn't know. And now he's kind of worried about it. But how was it for when you got the phone call, the actual phone call, after they keep delaying? This is good. How many times did they delay the phone call?
Yeah, it went on for.
You're sitting with the lawyer. Hey, what's my billing hours?
Yeah, right. It went on for like 8 months, and then the president of the United States calls you up and says, "We're going to do this." And then, it was pretty surreal.
Oh, that's so fantastic. So what was it? like my favorite part about your, as a recipient, was that you got everybody that you see that was alive and around, still able to come, old CEOs, everybody, you got them out to the White House. And it was a team effort. It wasn't just, hey, mom and dad, here we go, and some friends. 50 friends, 50 guys like Fitz and best friends that he had. That to me made me so warm, made my heart warm that you were able to do that.
Those men are some of the greatest men I've ever met in my life. They still are. And we did everything as a family and as a team.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're going to get attention, we should share that attention. That's the way the Army raised me. That's the way it should be, you know? And I think but the Gold Star families too, we did our best.
Captain Sims' family.
Cap Sims' family was there. We had Falkenberg's family there. We had all representatives for everyone we lost. But again, it's the most surreal thing in the world, but having this book, I wrote this book because I thought for 15 years I missed war. I thought I missed being shot at. I thought I missed that adrenaline. And I realized I missed the relationships. I missed the people.
Mm-hmm.
But more importantly, what we have to do as veterans is remind each other that I really miss my sense of purpose. And I miss my meaning. I miss being depended on.
Yeah.
And I didn't find that as a civilian. And so many veterans you walk into are like, why am I here? What am I doing? It's not that important. And we have to remind each other, yeah, you are valued. You are loved. You are needed. And honestly, what you did in uniform, it's going to pale in comparison to how we serve when we come home.
Yeah.
This is our service. This is how we change our country, not what we did with a grenade and a rifle. It's what we do as ambassadors of because veterans make the best neighbors, the best partners, the best employees. You want veterans in your community. You want veterans in your life.
Did you find it cathartic to write? Did it help?
Yeah, it does. But it also, look, yes, in a way.
A little bit.
A little bit. But the reality is that there's things you do to just kind of get it out there. And then there's things you do because you realize, what else am I going to do with this platform? I mean, they turned the Medal of Honor into like Miss America. I'm going to work with pets and, I want to, I don't have a purpose. Do you want to do reality TV? Do you want to sell an energy drink? No.
You just want your life back.
I don't want your leavemealone.com. I don't want you to follow. I don't have anything you need to see.
Yeah.
My life is private. I'm so happy. I have a wonderful, wonderful life that's private. I don't want anyone in my life but the people I love. That's my job, to protect them, because this can get really stupid. And if you start, I talk to some guys who are like, I can't go anywhere. Everyone recognizes me. Well, take off the ribbon then, dude. Don't wear it into a Walmart. You know what I mean? It's the weirdest thing. Everyone thanks me for my service. Well, you're wearing a giant green sombrero that says, I served. It's the weirdest thing. I take this off. I'm just another Italian from Buffalo. No one cares. You know what I mean? And that's a good thing. We need to remind the Vietnam generation that they get the love, that they're appreciated, welcome them home, love World War II vets that are still with us, Korea War. Let's share all that love to everyone else. But a lot of the attention that comes with this is just noise.
Right.
And it's designed to, I have a theory that civilians, this is controversial.
Mm-hmm.
Civilians say, thank you, thank you, thank you. Applebee's, here's your free food. Tom Brokaw, Greatest Generation. And it's because if we want to treat the veteran as if they got bit by a radioactive spider, there's no difference between us. I don't even think I'm the toughest guy in this room, but I will go through the fires of hell for the people I love, and so would you. Want your son and daughter to be a better man or woman, then you go to the United States, some college that's going to breed perpetual adolescence, Peter Pan syndrome. You're old with an adult coloring book. You're This is all garbage. So what we do, what we do is we tell veterans, oh my gosh, you're so incredibly special. You're so different. You're so brave. And that inoculates you from letting your son and daughter serve because you're not as brave. That's not our family business. That's what they do in Texas. That's what they do on the farm. They serve. They're different. No, we should all be fighting. We should all be defending America.
Well,
This is not a farm, city versus country thing, Democrat, Republican. It's an American thing. And every parent should raise their son and daughters to say, this is my country. I'm giving it to China. You got 3 billion people in your army. We learn how to do barrel changes just for that. You're not going to clear us. Don't you threaten us. Don't you take a swing at us. Whether or not. So I think that's one of the reasons why we go so over the top with our appreciation, because it makes us feel like, well, that's why my kid's getting an English lit major.
One last thing. Did you write that speech at the end?
I did.
That was brilliant.
I worked with a guy named Dr. Mark Epstein, who is on my radio show all the time. He edited it, made it a lot better, but I did write that down.
That was phenomenal. Folks, I'm gonna end this now to allow you guys to open the floor to any questions. Anybody have a question for Bells? Oh, come on, don't be afraid.
I have a statement, sir. I received that medal on television, and I'm proud of you, sir.
Thank you very much. It means a lot. Thank you.
So I have a question. I don't know if it's a question, but we're watching another war happen right now. And at any point in today's modern world, could you ever conceive a World War I type scenario happening as it's happening now between Russia and Ukraine?
I mean, listen, we came up in the military. All I wanted to do is fight. I mean, that's what we do. I saw Rocky IV. I am all about fighting Russians. I mean, you don't have to beg. Don't tempt me with a good time. But I look at this war 2 different ways. First of all, it's the cheapest way to take Russia out without sacrificing American blood. Okay? But on the other side, you're depleting our entire inventory of everything. And oh, by the way, as soon as we lost that equipment in Afghanistan, you're buying javelins on the open market. So if you're going to put javelins, anti-tank, Bradley fighter vehicles, and tanks on the market, you better equip our boys and girls with better equipment, because now everyone knows how to take that out. Mm-hmm. So, the reason why we didn't, they've got this drone that you throw and it flies into it. That was a horrible idea. That's why we never used it. I mean, I'm all about giving them the garbage that doesn't work right. If they want an OE-254, let's give them like 20 of those things to put up. No one can make an antenna. We got a bunch of pup tents that nobody cares about, that we used kerosene to keep mosquitoes away from. That's a smart idea. Flammable liquids, but we're giving them our best. And that really bothers me. And so I'd like to see a little bit less schizophrenic foreign policy. I'd like to see someone that says, hey, Russia's bad because they are. And I'd like to see someone to stand up to China and be like, well, you're not our friends either. And how do you do that and still have a seat at the United Nations table for the Taliban? It's a little tough.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Who's next? Anybody else? Don Graves. I know you have a question up there. Don Graves, folks, is Iwo Jima veteran, World War II. Look at that guy.
Look at you. That's incredible.
I have to apologize. I didn't hear most of what you said because I couldn't hear either one of them.
Really? You guys couldn't hear us with?
Well,
I'm sorry.
But I can tell you this, he's a debater.
I wish he was a politician.
Yeah.
I wish, Don, he was a politician.
My name's Jonathan Seck at the Freedom Mobility Foundation, and I asked Sal Tucci the same question the other night at the Mental Honor Museum Viewing Center. I simply just asked him, why did you separate? Same question to you, why did you separate and not just go be a career soldier?
I mean, I'll give you the answer, the truth. I was nominated for Medal of Honor, and they told me I had to change my MOS. I was the first living soldier at the time to be nominated. Paul Ray Smith had received the Medal of Honor in 2003, posthumously in Iraq. There was no other nominee from the Afghan war since 2004. So when they told me that I was nominated, I was going to get the DSC or I was going to get the Medal of Honor. They said you need to basically go to a museum, change your MOS. You're never going to deploy. You're putting people in harm's way. You're never going to serve again on a foreign deployment as a recipient.
You don't want to be the John Basilone.
Exactly.
That they can
And so
use
I said,
against
well,
us.
then screw that. I mean, I want out. I mean, I'm an infantryman. I want to be an infantryman or I don't want to do it. And so then they changed their policies when they started to keep people in. Leroy, Petrie's a great example. He lost his arm and they let him continue to serve and make rank. We've got 2 guys now that were Delta and Special Forces. They're still in sergeant majors and still serving. That wasn't the case in 04. It was either get the award, re-enlist, here was the choice, re-enlist and get the award, which is the way I thought it was, or get out and forget about it. And they did forget about it, which is cool. But I mean, it just kind of went away. What's crazy, my citation has the beginning of what looks like Barack Obama's name with a pen. And President Trump signed over it. But he didn't need to, right? He didn't need to do that. He chose to do that. But it looked like they wanted to do it, but they just didn't want to do it because it would bring attention to the fact that at the time, ISIS was moving to Iraq.
Yeah.
And now it looks like a failure. We pulled out when we shouldn't have. It puts it on the thing. Everything was political. And who cares? I mean, I don't live like that, but I wanted to serve. They wouldn't let me fight. And so I got out.
So when you came back, you became a radio host.
Yeah.
How did you get that gig?
I was doing a show. I was in a group of Washington, D.C. called Vets of Freedom. Pete Hegseth, Marcus Luttrell. We had a young Chris Kyle with us. Just a bunch of guys. That's how we met.
Yeah.
And the mill bloggers were doing their thing. And I did a thing about Iraq, and G. Gordon Liddy, I was on his radio show, and he got like a stomachache and left. And I finished his show, and someone heard it and said, why don't you come back tomorrow? And then I'm getting advice from like G. Gordon Liddy. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And then Glenn Beck was like, hey, did you want some advice? And I'm like, no, Glenn, go to hell. What do you want? I got this. No, of course. I didn't even think it was an option. And so I just started to just do fill-in work.
Yeah.
I did that for about 5 years, just filling in. And then my hometown was like, do you want to do radio? And I'm thinking, this is the easiest job in the world.
Get paid?
Get paid. You're 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. And it wasn't fun anymore because it became like, let's not be controversial. Not that I want to be controversial, but I want to tell the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got, there's a lot of crazy things that happen in the world. I have opinions I'd like to discuss. I don't, the founding fathers wore wigs, tights, and heels was an issue. Now today, there seems to be an issue.
And are they still, is it still that way? Are you still limited on opinions, voicing?
Look, they don't want to, I was hoping that it was going to be like my opportunity to, change. I wanted to change
we can make you louder with crowd. Tight.
Well, let's not get crazy. I'm not looking to do. My whole thing is that we need discourse.
Yeah.
And so I happen to be right of center politically. I only want left of center people on my show. I only want to talk to people I disagree with, and I want to show them that we can disagree and everything's okay.
Yeah.
You're not the enemy. I don't want to hurt you. I want to amplify your voice, but I want you to realize it's a two-way street. And we're not listening. There are points that you have that I might agree with.
Right.
I haven't heard them yet, but I might. But my point is that we don't have discourse and we don't treat each other like citizens. And hearings are the perfect vehicle to educate citizens how to behave. Because you serve with people different than you, love different than you. And guess what? That crack overhead, we all ran towards the Tracer fire. That's what we did. Why can't we do that in normal life? It drives me crazy. It drives me nuts.
So if we can get David down here, get Bells down here, he'll be a radio program down here. Yes, sir.
Have you decided against politics in the future?
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, I've been sued a ridiculous amount of times now. And the next federal lawsuit that comes my way for something I didn't do, people show up. Someone from Iraq is like, I remember you. I'm like, you remember me with a Kevlar helmet on.
Yeah. Are you talking about an Iraqi? An Iraqi?
Like 15 years later, dude gets the Medal of Honor, writes a book, goes on Fox News, and someone in Ramadi is vacuuming and is like, damn it! That guy,
he shot me!
He stole my
son of a camel!
He stole my white opal. Get out of here. I mean, you get just harassed with the dumbest things, and they just come piling on, and But I'll tell you what, they might get me to the point where I'm like, if you're going to destroy my life anyway, if I'm going to spend 6 figures to defend myself from people that aren't even in the country, they're not even in the country. If you're going to do that, then you might as well just, whatever. But when Luttrell ran for the House, I was listening to him, Morgan Luttrell. And I was thinking, those are good guys. Those are sound, quality, patriotic guys. And, I give them a lot of respect. I need this. This is the thing. If you're running for office because you need it, then I think you're a part of the problem. We are serving or we're not. You're either serving your country in elected office or it's not real. And so I would much rather prove my heart that I'm legitimate by just talking to you for 4 hours a day for free and just telling you, let's come up with ways to actually solve a problem. I don't need a congressman. I don't need a senator. I don't need a president to solve our problems.
Yeah.
I need people that back to say, this is crazy, we can do better. Our country is only going to implode by our lack of, it's our apathy that's hurting us as Americans. And I'm trying to build the morale and apathy on the civilian side.
Somebody's asked numerous times, would you ever run for office? Hey, Taco, you ought to run for office. Hey, I'm honored that you would even consider that. But I would not put my family through the scrutiny and lies and things that somebody wants to make up, kind of like you're talking about 15 years later. I could see somebody going, I remember back in 1994 in Okinawa, Japan, I don't want to deal with it or put my family through.
Unfortunately, Mitch, that actually happened to you.
Yeah.
That's the problem. No, you're right though. You're fighting a cancel culture as a total, but you know what? It's going to peter itself
But see,
out.
Ronnie Jackson, he was my running buddy in Iraq when we were at TQ.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He was lieutenant. I was major. I was the air boss. He was the head trauma surgeon.
Yeah.
And when he comes up and shows me the little email and says, hey, look at this, man. What do you think? I'm like, you've been invited to be interviewed to be the White House doctor for President Bush. Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, but man, how am I going to do that? I'm here I'm in Iraq. And I'm like, I'll get you home. So I made all the phone calls to my buddies and we got him on a C-17, 46 to Bellavia,
awesome.
to the Lamstool. He took a bunch of movie guys, Walter Reed, went to Men's Warehouse, picked up a suit, had it done, went and did the interview, got him back, because usually you go home on vacation or leave, 2 weeks turns into like a month, trying to get him back to the unit. But I got Ronnie back and they went to be Bush's surgeon for 2 years, Obama for 8 years, President Bush, and then when President Trump, and when he put him up for the VA, the knives come out. And they accused him of being a pill pusher, a drunkard, all this stuff. He was a 1-star going up for 2 stars. And he had his life ruined. He calls me up, hey, Taco, I'll be passing through DFW on Thursday. Can you meet me for lunch? I'm like, hell yeah. So I drive out to there. They're talking about his life and the scrutiny under it as an active duty guy. He could not wait to retire. But when he got off, he turned around and goes, all those people that screwed with me, I'll show them.
Yeah, no, but that's what it is.
And he
That's
did.
what-
He
that's
ran
what
for
ends up
office. He
happening.
got it. So he's up there. I'm
Yeah,
proud of him.
yeah, but again, though, that breaks your heart, because that was a patriot that we actually want at the tip of the spear.
Especially for us vets.
Exactly.
To help us at the
You
VA.
want
A
them doing-
doctor and a
Right,
vet.
Right, and so what happens is, that's their little lawfare nonsense. That's how they get you. They sue you, they try to embarrass you. And my whole thing is, look, I mean, you think I'm gonna be, I'm intimidated by, you've got green hair, you're a barista by day, and you're running around, screaming incoherently at police horses by night. Like, what's wrong with you? You're not tough. Look, those, I believe, the Antifa folks, the people protesters, in the old days, they beat it in the army.
Yeah.
We are the same, standing up to authority, standing up for people that can't defend themselves, fighting bullies in 1775.
Yeah.
We're all about anti-bullying. We're all about standing up for people that can't defend themselves. We have a totally different hygiene standard evidently with them, but we could teach them how to shower. We could get them.
I'm gonna listen. Where can everybody listen to your morning shows?
It's the David Bellavia Show. It's on Odyssey, Odyssey.com. AUDACY.
Every day, 4 hours. I highly recommend you guys sign up for this. Did you have a question, sir?
Well, I had a comment. Thank you for your service.
You're welcome, sir.
I was in the Air Force back in the 70s, went to Desert Storm, but I spent 31 years with the Fort Worth Police Department. And it's such a difference when you go to war and you're able to actually do your job, and many times being in a police force where you have to hold back. You got to kind of let it out. You got a job to do, obviously. And so many times I can sit and watch the news at night and go, those people need to have their asses kicked. And they won't hurt innocent people anymore. You spoke of Antifa stuff.
You're absolutely right.
I see the same thing. And if we back down, it's like war. If you back down, the bad is going to take over, and you cannot. So,
Well, amen.
I'm a
God bless
little,
you.
I wouldn't want to go through what you did, but I'm a little envious that, you were able to do that, like you said, about getting it out of your system and things.
I'll tell you, I think that there was a time when we were coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan early on in the war, that you would hear police officers and they would, you get together and they'd tell their stories, the reservists, the guard guys. Today, that is the toughest job on the planet, being a police officer, without a doubt.
Amen.
And I hear their stories of what happened, in the summer of 2020. COVID was the worst thing in the world, but we could protest for 3 months and burn buildings. When that all went down, I thought to myself, I don't even know what to say to law enforcement anymore. I mean, this is serious.
Well, I think what you repeated stories about how we need veterans. I get a great sense of gratefulness when I meet other veterans and they're thankful. And we're kind of that team, I guess you'd say, that family.
Right.
And they know and they appreciate it. And so I'm very grateful for that.
Well, unfortunately, you guys are getting it.
They don't understand, and they just hate. It's my way or the highway.
Well, I'll tell you, every time I see a Gulf War vet, I should have said, we should let you finish the job, and I would, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, police get hamstrung all the time now, the department. You can't do anything. That's why you never see police on the highway policing, because of all the issues. Same deal for Bells. When you're reading the book, they were gloves off. And they were taking care of business. There was no, and in Vietnam was the same way. Gloves off at first. Now you got body counts. Now you've got restrictions. Now you got ROEs. Oh, I'm sorry, we can't shoot the mosque. We can't blow up the mosque that's got 30 guys up there with RPGs, because that would offend their culture. Well, don't stop using the mosque as a cover, or putting civilians in front of the fighters. What he went through, I see, if I say this for you or read it, but what I witnessed as well was a frustration of the guys in 06, the frustration of the guys not being able to fight back and do certain things. And we became a named military, which when I went to Afghanistan in 08 and worked with the Afghan police, I found that to be very frustrating. Wow. That we were over there to build schools that, educate young girls, stuff that we take for granted. And yet they're throwing acid on their faces when they walk out of the school or burning the school down. So it was rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. But I think that's it. I'm going to wrap this up. David,
Hold on a
I
second.
can't thank you.
Yeah. Before we go, so we got the door prizes. We're gonna have some closing remarks before we get out of here. But did everyone get look for some door prizes? If not, raise your hand. We can get one to you. Everyone good? All right. So David, I'm going to ask you to pull numbers out of a hat or five, whatever that is. You can sit right there.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So the first thing in the video, you saw the flagship valor, the Medal of Honor plane that we did. I've got two of these. First one, it's a military challenge coin that was given out at the dedication ceremony. This goes to pull the first ticket. Sean, can you come up here?
Last three, 445. 445. Bingo.
There you go. Sean, if you could come down and grab that, yes. He'll come up there, sir. We'll bring it up to you. All right. The challenge coin, same challenge coin.
Last three, 459.
Hey, darn.
All right.
Sean will bring it to you.
You didn't realize we're getting into bingo, did you?
All right. So after this, we got still some books for sale up there, but this is your chance to win one of David's house-to-house books. So pull the number.
The last three, 475.
There you go. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Pull a book.
Is that it?
All right. And another book, house to house.
Last three, 423. 423. All right.
This is Sean, by the way. He's an intern with us, and he's doing a great job. He's getting the workout going up and down the stairs.
Is that the last one?
No, we got 5 more books.
Last three, 465. 465.
Back. This is actually the Ramrods book. We got 2 of these.
All right, last three, 440. Over here to the right.
440. There we go.
Is that it? Are we done?
No.
I drank 25 Dr. Peppers.
If you're late for a
President, I
flight
gotta
taco,
pay.
go for it. So this next book is Gary Sneese's book, and it's autographed by Mr. Gary Sneese.
Oh, there you go. I drank 25 Dr. Peppers.
Okay, Dr. Pepper.
457. 457.
I got that book already, so why don't you read that?
Ooh, I'm gonna tell Gary Sneese's book got rejected.
You're a good man. That's Glenn Williams. He's one of our rampers. One of the finest guys.
Glenn's one of our fleet service agents. So if we lose your bag, chances are it's Glenn's fault. So his phone number is 817.
449. 449 up there. And you guys, I never let you in on a little secret. Before Bells joined the Army, he was an engineer for Boeing, and his only job was designing the overhead bins. So if you wonder why your luggage never fits, feel free to ask him. He's an engineer by trade before he went in the Army, and he loves talking that geek stuff.
Sure, son.
Burton said he gets your back.
We'll give you this phone number too.
442.
Wait, hold on. Let me tell you what they're about to win. This is actually they're all cool. But, this is actually a book written by Gary Byker, one of the Medal of Honor recipients. He actually passed away a little bit, I think, about 13 months ago, and it's autographed by him. One of the trips that we do involves taking late-stage cancer patients and their families down to Disney World for a VA experience. And then, I think it was 2 years ago, Gary and his wife joined us and provided very inspirational words. So this is a book autographed by Gary Byker, and I think we have the winner right there.
442.
442. If you ever get a chance to learn about Gary's his quick story is, Special Forces, Vietnam, and came back and lived in a cave for 2 years, and went on to be a very, very successful, very healthy, inspirational man. So recommend you checking that story out. So, the last book is actually a Medal of Honor book, and it's actually, I think there's about 13 to 15 autographs of Medal of Honor recipients in this book. So this is kind of the grand prize, and
Drum roll.
Drum roll, there you go.
4. There we go.
So I'm sure David will add his signature in there. So before we go, I would like to ask David Seymour to come up. He's the Chief Operating Officer for American Airlines, to say some final words.
Thank you, Randy. First of all, thank you very much, David, for coming out. Thank you. Really appreciate you doing that. I won't say much that you, because this is the real reason that you all came out here, and I appreciate everybody coming. But David, I really appreciate you. This is one of several that we've had over the years, and glad now we're in a point we could potentially do more of them. COVID kind of hurt us a little bit, but the one thing, as I've been around some of the Medal of Honor recipients, what I found is they're extremely passionate. They all have different perspectives. I always say there are no two that are alike, but I can tell you anytime, and I've told a lot of people this, anytime that I get to spend with them is truly inspirational. I learned something from it. Sorry I couldn't make all of this today. Work got in the way a little bit, but I certainly enjoyed the last bit there. So thank you very much, and thank you everyone for coming out. This is really been good, and I appreciate you spending some time here. So thank you very much.
Thanks for
Folks, thank you for joining us today. And on behalf of the folks that run the museum, we appreciate the gracious hosting. And of course, Randy and Sean and Maria and all of MVI. It is fantastic to be here. Thanks again for joining us. We'll see you out in the lobby.
So
Thank you, David.
We're going to get them out here, and we have about 15 more books available for sale. That you'll be more than happy to autograph, the ones you've already bought or these ones. So. Head up there.